Radio. It is why you're here at Mohawk College and taking this course. For most, radio is a passion that lives inside of you. Whether it's the great selection of free music at your fingertips, learning about new bands, or just being entertained in your car while you're stuck in traffic, in my opinion, radio may change slightly, but never go away. To work in this business, you must be motivated, take criticism well, be punctual, always be up to date on the latest info and technology, and know that a job doesn't come to you. You have to go out there and prove that radio is your obsession, and most of all know that only the strong survive. Surviving is the first thing that comes to mind when thinking of satellite radio. Critics said it would never last. Now, 20 years later, this form of radio is stronger than ever. In class, there is usually always the debate of what method of listening to music is best: paying for commercial-free music or listening to commercials for free. It's a toss-up, isn't it? Recently, I had the chance to head to New York City to the headquarters of SIRIUS XM. Here's your rare opportunity to hear firsthand how a company of this size operates, from on-air personality and program director Al Skop.
I am a director of music programming here at SIRIUS XM Radio.
And you're also an announcer as well, I hear.
I am. I host on The Highway, which is our new country channel. So that's really, really rewarding. Love being able to, well, be on the air and know that when I do my show, I'm talking. People in Saskatchewan are hearing me just as easily as people in Miami, Florida, so it's kind of cool. I was program director and I was on the air, and being at a smaller station, one of the stations I was at was smaller, so wore a lot of hats and was working a lot in promotions and marketing and things like that too, so kind of running the gamut. Well, from a working standpoint, it is very liberating to work in a medium where the utmost priority is put on the product and the creativity and making sure that the listeners are happy with what they're hearing. Sometimes I think in commercial radio the biggest concern is maybe that, but even more so in commercial radio, the biggest priority is making sure people remember who you are so that they can write down that you listen to them, you know, and so that you can get ratings, so that you can get advertising revenue from sponsors. And so not having to be beholden to advertisers and being able to serve the listeners instead, you know, as number one priority is kind of cool. On the highway, I have my boss who's in Nashville, who's got his finger on the pulse of what's going on, working with him. His name is John Marks, and he and I together on a weekly basis take a listen to all the stuff that's come in and all the new music that's come our way in the last week, and review it, check it out, and decide what's good enough for our listeners, and put it in a big old pot, stir it up, and see what you know, have another week's worth of highway music come out. Well, technically, yes, we can play whatever we want. We do make sure that we play, you know, if we played everything out there, if we played every piece of music that came in just to be able to say we play everything, well, first off, there'd probably be a lot of subpar stuff of things made in people's basements that might not be worthy of being on the air, quite honestly, or you know, we may, even if we did play a really great song, we'd have so many other songs on the list that it would take 9 days to get back around to your favorite song. So you still do have to program it like a good radio station would be programmed, and that's kind of a, you know, bottom line for any station. As far as Canadian content, we obviously have our service in Canada, and as a requirement to having that happen, the CRTC, instead of putting restrictions on each individual channel, they took us as a service as a whole. So in other words, we have dedicated channels to Canadian content. So instead of taking each channel and having a slice of it needing to be CanCon, we actually have French language sports. We have, talk channels. We have dedicated channels to Canadian content. The company itself has two actual headquarters. It's a dual headquartered company, and so we're in New York and Washington, D.C. We have studios in countless points all over the country. We have a pretty big operation in Nashville, where we're right at 5th and Broadway. But we also have studios in Charlotte, North Carolina, where we do our NASCAR. That's the home of NASCAR. We have studios in Daytona for NASCAR. We have studios in Los Angeles. We have studios in Texas. And individual DJs can actually do shows for us from their home studios. So they're dotted all across the country. Well, there's nothing secret about where Howard does his show. When you walk in the lobby of SIRIUS XM, right on the right is a pretty good quadrant of the entire floor, where Howard has a locked door that if you're with Howard, you get in, and if you're not, even if you're me, you don't. But Howard has a complete sub facility, if you will, of this whole place here. And once you walk through that door, there's on-air studios, there's production studios, there's offices, everything that you would see at a whole separate radio station. As a matter of fact, the floor is cut through to the 37th floor here, so that they get the height needed, because Howard actually does Howard TV on demand as well. And so that's actually not even just a radio studio, that's a TV studio with the lights and everything up above, so he can do his thing for TV as well. But yeah, he does the full operation. He walks in just like anybody else through the door, and walks over and gets in and does his thing. Hardly anyone sees him, because he's pretty much the earliest riser of us all, doing his live show starting at 6 a.m. But when he's done, and he's done for the day, he'll open the door and he'll walk right through the lobby to get to the elevators to go back down, and just like anybody else would. So nice guy. I've run into him a couple times, and not really a bad thing to say about him. He's a big member of the team, obviously. When he came on, he created a big enough stir to bring in a good number of people. So certainly a key player here, if you will, at SIRIUS XM. It's going to be a very interesting landscape, marked by the fact that it's going to be changing almost daily. The people who are going to win in radio are going to realize, and terrestrial radio are going to realize, that they're not just a signal on the FM dial, that they are if they're doing it right, they're an entertainment and information outlet that can be heard on any number of devices, and several of which probably haven't even been invented yet. And if they can wrap themselves around the fact that they need to build that, and not just so much to make sure you tune your FM radio into this frequency, then that is really that's a good start. I absolutely can. With regard to the Federal Communications Commission, we are a paid subscription service, so I can say anything I darn well want to. Whether I do or not is a matter of common sense, and it goes back to that target listener. If I know that a good number of my listeners on the highway, maybe a good number of them are truck drivers who are alone in their trucks driving 15 hours from Flagstaff to Phoenix, and they wouldn't be offended by an occasional F-bomb here or there. But that's not to say that another good chunk of our audience are soccer moms getting their kids back and forth to school. So we need to take each channel on an individual basis and realize more of the common sense limitations of what we say and do versus what the federal government has allowed us to do or not to do. Shade 45, where Eminem drops in whenever he feels like it, you better believe they're doing that sort of thing and getting away with it, and their fans love it, because that's what they came there for. Let me say that Sirius XM has a very robust and very flourishing internship program, and we take people from all over. And if I had the address off the top of my head, I would give it, but I don't. So I could look it up, and maybe you can, flash it on the bottom of the screen right now. See, there it is, right there. So you can go to that address, and we have a very active internship program. I think we're recruiting for the summer right now, actually. I love being here, and I love that even if in some small little part I've done my share to help change the face of what we all call radio. It's an honor to know that I do know that emphatically, without boasting or bragging, and just being proud of what all of us have built here. It's been a long road. I've been here over 10 years now, before we even had all the satellites launched. So to have been here for that long, and to have helped build all that, it's pretty big honor, and I'm glad to be here.